All right, so I got back on Roscoe today. I've been wanting to weld on this for a while, but the weather's been hot and dry and, well, warm and dry and a lot of wind, and so I couldn't weld outside, but we had buckets of hail last night and some good storms and a lot of rain, so I got out here today and welded the engine mounts in. And I've got to trim that bolt there because the inside of the frame is right behind it. But I dropped the engine in a couple weeks ago with these motor mounts and these plates, and it looks like everything's gonna bolt up right like this, front to back. I looked at the engine, I looked down the cam bore, and basically it looks like it lines up nose to tail with the rest of the truck. So this is gonna be nice and square. I can get bolts in on both of these in this position. So even if it's a little bit off, I mean, the factory motor mounts on these are awfully wiggly. So I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if that was in frame, but you know, the factory motor mounts on Chevys have some play in them. So I think that part of Roscoe is done now. I'm going to zip these mounts back off and hit them with some paint. I'm not going to bother grinding on the welds. Who cares if the frame's been welded on this thing? It's going to be a beastly tow truck. I did get out here the other day and did some sanding. And I got a bunch of pinholes. I'm basically taking this paint off so I can reshoot it with some epoxy paint. Come to find out, Rust-Oleum interacts with epoxy window sealer, and so I really don't want Rust-Oleum on this lip here where the window's going to sit. So I started sanding all this wire wheeling off to put the proper epoxy paint on here, and pinholes all over the place. And so I started welding it up. Had a couple places where it blew out. And so, yeah, my welding's not where I want it to be, especially when it comes to doing body work. But I'm going to sand this back down, grind the welds down a bit. I'm not going to try to get them as perfect as I did previously, because that's why I ended up blowing through in a lot of places. So I'm just going to smooth it out as best I can, and I'll use some Bondo to get it smoother than that. So, and I'm going to finish. I started sanding on this, and my sanding wheel blew apart. I went and got a new pad for my sanding wheel, and I'm going to sand the roof so that whenever I paint this, I can do the roof all in one go. Not that I care that much about it, but if I got the paint to use, I'm going to use up the entire can of paint. At a later date, I can work on the hood, but my main goal is going to be to get the roof all, including the side here, the side of the doors. I'm going to try to get all this black and looking somewhat nice compared to the rest of the truck. One thing to note on these Chevy trucks, the nuts on the back side of these aren't held in place by anything. You have to disassemble the suspension in order to take the engine mounts on and off to hold the nuts back here. And as you can see, I welded the nuts to the back side of these plates. That way I won't have that issue. I'll be able to take these motor mounts off the top without having to have a wrench on the back side to hold those nuts in place. And shazam! There it is in all its painted glory. I think that looks pretty nice. All I got to do now is finish the work on the back of the cab and get this paint work done and get the window reassembled. Then I can start work on putting Roscoe back together.